I've never
Wait,
seen
just
that.
wait, Ben. Just wait. I thought the same thing 4 years ago, making fun of people who
I'm
were
more
talking
of
about this shit.
a Daniel Tiger type guy. You know Daniel Tiger?
Not yet.
Got to get on that.
Do you watch it for you? Because you don't have any
Well,
kids.
yeah, there's no one else to watch it for. It's fantastic.
Hey, welcome in another edition of Putting for Dough. We have a ton to look at. You may not think so with CJ Cup, but we do a ton to look at. A lot of value coming up this week. How do I know? Ben Rasa and now Chris in the house producing on Eytan. How do I know, Ben? Because we mined a shit ton of value last week at the ZoZo. So we'll recap what happened. A bunch of our plays either hovering or actually paying off. We have a lot to talk about beyond just our show, including what's happening with our channel, the betting package that a lot of people have already signed up for, and to remind everybody here who's just popping in with us, who's just hanging with us to talk some golf, to talk some value on the golf board, across the board, hit the thumbs up button, make sure you're subscribed, and you want to hit the notification bell so you know whenever this show drops on a Monday. Ben, how are you?
I'm all right. How are you? You must be feeling good. The Birds won last night. Best team in the NFL. Congratulations. I'm
Well,
feeling what? No?
no, no.
No. I
I'm
wouldn't agree with that either. So I'm with you. I just want to see what you would say.
No, I'm upset because I lose two bets at the end of the game on a meaningless 2 point conversion that people will tell me has some sort of tertiary analytical value. So my joy for my football team is mitigated.
Okay.
You don't get that in an individual sport, right? A golfer either wins or loses. Now, maybe you cut losses with a top 10, top 20, but there's no ridiculous decision made by a caddy or by a trainer like you saw with a coach and a football player. So
I hear
it's
you.
not
I
as
will.
happy as you think in the Shander household this Monday.
That's fair. That is fair. It wouldn't have been if Ricky would have won last week.
Oh my God.
I'm not sure I could have appeared. I, I don't know if he'll ever win again, but he has shown some flashes. I got my money's worth last week. You mentioned the non-cut. You mentioned the value that we mined. I
Yep.
was really happy with a tough tournament in the ZoZo. We were right there. Hovland played really well. Keegan won. Congratulations to Keegan. No doubt about it. He was not on my card, but I was happy with that. You know, a guy like Patrick Rogers, some other guys hovering. It was overall pretty solid. And I always find these non-cuts to be, it's a double-edged sword. It's difficult in the sense that you have less guys, which is easier, but you have worse prices on everyone because there's less guys.
Yep.
So it's trying to find that balance. I thought we did it really well last week. Now we get a new challenge, a new course in the CJ Cup.
Yes. And let's not forget Keita Nakajima, who cashed not only the 40, but the 20
Yeah, I
and
did
was
forget that.
2 places away from running the table on the full 3-rung 40, 20, 10 ladder. All right. Finished top 12, tied 12.
It just shows in these I'm not going to say it's because they're guaranteed 72 holes, but I do think there's an element of, all right, I'm here. I don't have to worry about the cut. Yep. I can kind of showcase my skills. It's an event for some players that they don't get to see. You know, this is how often are some of these guys who play on the Asian tour or play elsewhere competing with Rory and Rahm and those type of names? It's a chance for them to showcase their skills. And in golf, we see it every week. I mean, the best player in the world can lose to a guy you've never heard of. That's just the nature of golf. So you are going to see some names that pop up on the board again this week that we're saying, wow, that's very, very surprising.
And you mentioned as far as where we just were and putting a bow kind of on the ZoZo, we were just there with familiarity. And that's, I think, the big part of what you and I were both looking at with our respectively with our 40, 20, 10s, guys who don't necessarily have the tour resume, but familiarity specifically there. And now as we shift gears, and we'll get into it here in a second, that's going to be a challenge, or at least more of a challenge with the CJ Cup coming to South Carolina. But we have to remind everyone, you're going to see a lot of BetMGM. Chris is going to show you a lot on there. We're going to talk a lot on there. Chances are that this is not your first OddsShopper video that you've seen. If it is, welcome. Hit the subscribe button. And if it is, you're going to see a lot of these videos. So you might as well just pop in now and get ahead of any value that you can capture, a bankroll that you can establish over at BetMGM. So what we're going to do is give you $10 into $200, and all you need to do is sign up. You click that link below, that BetMGM link below. It's going to bring you on over to the site. And when you do, sign up, deposit at least $10. Can be more, but at least 10, because your first wager is going to be a $10 money line play in the NHL. Whatever you want there on the money line, $10 wager in the NHL, pre-game, of course. And then as soon as either team scores a goal, that's going to be $200 right into your account. It's a bankroll, Ben. It's an opportunity for people to start right away. We're going to tell people a way in which they can then play much more off that with our betting package, but at least starting off at a book that I know is popular in BetMGM, but it's not the 1-2 or the 1-2, the 2-1, wherever people normally go as far as like the DFS tie. So we know that there are a lot of people watching that just haven't taken advantage of this. And it's kind of mind-boggling when you can start off with $200 in your account.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. I mean, there's a lot of promos across a lot of books. I think we'd all agree at the top of the list are the no-brainers where you cannot lose. And this is that. Someone has to score. You're going to get $200. It's not, oh, my team has to do this, and if this happens, I could get this. No, this is if you are interested, you're going to deposit. You bet that NHL money line, and you will get your $200 because someone's going to score a goal.
It's a good point, because we just ran at another book a promo in the money line NFL college, and look at what we just had this past weekend. The Steelers losing, the Packers losing. I bet you there were a lot of, right? I bet you if that opportunity was there for people, a lot of people bet those two teams as far as money line plays in the lawless, as you put it, National Football League. So here you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about a minus 500 Lightning team getting upset. All you need, as Ben mentioned, is a goal scored, and you're good to go. All right, let's move on now to South Carolina, the CJ Cup. Congaree is going to be an interesting matchup, battleground here, if you will. For me, and this is where you begin, and you can go a little deeper into the build and kind of what you're looking at before we get into the top tier from a name standpoint. But, you know, we always try to look at metric. We always try to look at something that can help you specifically at a course, or maybe something that's not as important. Length seemed to jump out a lot, Ben, looking at ways in which you can attack and ultimately beat this course.
So this is a weird situation. We have seen this course. We saw it at the Palmetto, and now it's hosting a different event. So first things first, if you're looking at the CJ Cup, don't look at tournament history. This was played in South Korea. This was played in Vegas. We're in South Carolina now. Congaree, you mentioned it, 7,600 plus yards. That's pretty long. Par 71. Gigantic. You're going to need to get it out there. Higo won when we saw him on the tour take on this course. You got the 3 par 5s. I was interested, though, from what I could find. And again, it's only one event. You don't have to be a crazy bomber. You can still get around here with your long irons. You can still get around here by keeping it in the fairway if you want to. In fact, I would actually argue that being accurate off the tee could go a long way, even at a very long course.
Yeah, and this is where I'm surprised, because I left him off because I didn't think the value, I didn't like the value that I had, right? And normally when we talk about our top tier guys, we start with guys we play, right? Although 2 weeks ago we talked about in the mid-range Fowler picking up a ridiculous amount of steam and how we wanted to stay the hell away from that, rightfully so, of course. And then maybe we should have been ahead of the game this week. But Fowler aside, right? I mean, Fowler aside, and shame on you. You should have seen that coming, Rasa.
No, never.
Come on.
I can't do it with Ricky. Ricky's in a separate category. I got other egregious names, from Griot to Wise to all those guys. There's too many of them. Jason Day is in this event. We got a lot of the guys.
Fair enough.
That fit that bill.
So here's where I'm a little surprised that he's, and look, I don't know what I wanted. Maybe 30 to 1, maybe something a little bit to separate, because he's still fresher to the tour than someone like Cam Young and even Victor Hovland, who I know is going to come up here. Both of these names are going to come up here, but I'm a little surprised, and I'm curious as to why. I'm a little surprised as to why Colin Morikawa has not graced your list in the top tier as an option, because you're right. Your ability to strike the ball is going to mitigate everything on this course, including not being able to, not being the longest or even longest slash most accurate off the tee. You can strike your long irons. You should be in prime spot 4 straight days here.
So no doubt about it. And yeah, I'm gonna step back for a second and just so when I look at the top tier, this is an elite tier. Like Rory and Rahm are here, JT and Scotty are here. So you're talking about guys that are elite win equity players that are at the top of the board. If they don't win, you're gonna get good numbers on world class players. You mentioned Victor Hovland. He's up there. I see 20-1. You can bounce that number. It's funny. You mentioned Morikawa. I could argue, and I have no rules on this show. Morikawa is almost a fringe mid-range price.
Oh,
you see that? Like,
okay, so I missed that.
That's what I'm saying, though. I think it's funny that you say that.
Yeah,
he's hovering 28, 30-1 out there. That's not where we see that for majors sometimes with a guy like Colin Morikawa. I mean, this is a non-cut, and I think it's super interesting to find him in that range. Cam Young is in that range. Big time players in that range. I love the idea of clicking Morikawa's name on an outright here. That's a price we don't normally say.
All right, and full disclosure here, you did have him on the sheet, but I didn't look down. Now you have been guilty. I hate to do like the whole political whataboutism crap on you, but you have been guilty of this in the past multiple times, where you have brought a name up that has been on my sheet. So I don't feel as bad, but I should let the world know here that I totally fucked this one up because Ben has him on the mid-range.
That's true. It's on the list. I think you can really, can do some damage though in this range. Morikawa, Cam Young, Max Homa, Victor Hovland. I wouldn't push back on any of those type of players. It's kind of choose your own adventure style. These guys, tee to green, very strong, hungry. Colin Morikawa is the best iron player in the world at times or even overall. The other guys can really drive the ball. Give me 2 or 3 of them over maybe allocating a big share to Rory or Rahm, who are the best players in the world. And I love them. Just not 7.5-1 on Rory. I'm not going to get there in an outright.
No. Not at all. Not at all. So I love it. Now let's start though where we are at the top, because my guy is going to be similar range in the mid range for you. So that's going to be the transition from the top tier to the mid range. So why don't you look at an actual top tier guy that you like to counter, as you said, that trio right there at the top?
Yeah, I think we're gonna, or at least I am gonna land in that next tier, and it starts with a guy like Victor Hovland. I liked him last week. I thought he played outstanding. I think this is another good course for him. He can do a lot. It's always, can his around the green game be masked? It's not a strong suit. If he has to get up and down and scramble a ton, you could be in trouble. And the greens and regulation percentage, from what we could see, it's not terrible here. It's not easy either. But I do look at him. I think he can be very aggressive off the tee here. He still can keep it in the fairways. These aren't going to be punishing drives in terms of if you miss. That can really ease up, and he can separate off the tee. That's his path to success, and I think he's got a real chance to do it here.
Yeah, look, we talked for, if it's distance, if it's just continuity, just playing, I think a lot of our guys here have that, just coming into this tournament with, I hate to say an advantage in the sense of like a leg up, but it's almost like being shot out of a slingshot, or
you're muted.
Sorry, as opposed to just coming out and playing your first round of the year like Scotty Scheffler, right? Like actual solo as opposed to match play. So I think that there is an element to just playing last week, playing exceptionally well last week. And I'll tag that with Cam Young, who we had last week. And now his odds have adjusted because you have more top heavy guys here.
Definitely.
Right. So that's a big play for me. And again, I'm targeting, I think this is a great spot for Cam. He's got the same odds as Morikawa. You could flip a coin, and I would take either one of these guys at 28-1. I have no problem with it. But if it's Young specifically, I think we're targeting 2 things, which is the field isn't true major deep. So he still has that straddle of mid-range to top tier, but getting a little more mid-range odds. And the guy can hit the damn hell off the ball, right? Like he can crush the ball off the tee. We know he's got the range. And I do think that's going to help him exponentially here. So give me Cam Young at 28-1. He's got the same odds for you as Morikawa.
He does. And you mentioned the off the tee game. Now, you could, I'm sure we're going to get a lot of questions in our premium Discord and elsewhere about, do you want your player having, played in Japan and now flying? I really don't know how to quantify that. I think I love that my guys got reps. I don't love that they're flying all over the world. I think it's a non-issue for me. So I'm not going to shy away from guys that played. I want to get that right out there. I don't care that Hovland and Morikawa and some of these guys were playing last week at the ZoZo. I'm going to go right to them. And this is where I'm going to really, really start the top of my card. Hovland, Morikawa, those 20 to 30 to 1 type prices. You can shop it around. I'm very content landing there and hoping that they give me a good showing.
Look, this isn't the NFL. This isn't Joel Embiid who has to fly 3.5, 4 hours across the country, right, with a banged up. Unless somebody's hurt, I'm with you. I don't think the travel alone is enough to be concerned, especially if a guy played well. That's just golf. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I think this is one of the few sports where if you're playing well, that either mitigates or just completely works against any negative of travel. Like, you could play all over the world for 4 straight weeks, but if you're playing exceptional golf, it doesn't matter as long as it's not an injury issue.
It's early in the season. We're talking about, again, I don't think we need to spend a ton of time on this. Right. We're early in the season. You're talking about elite players. Like, they're not flying Spirit Airlines, I can promise you. Like, it's not that big of a deal. They're going to be just fine. It's a non-issue for me.
All right, so let's move here as we are in the mid-range. Morikawa, we talked about him. You and I share the same liking for an individual. So this is going to be a copy and paste, essentially, where everything you said. Now, I just want you to know here that I already have eyes on him at your number for the long shot column that comes out each and every week on the OddsShopper site. So don't think that, I just don't want you to think that I stole Aaron Wise from you. That's all I'm saying.
I mean,
I had him ahead of time.
I'm the original Aaron Wise truther. There's no doubt about that. He's got all the talent in the world. Is it fleeting? Does it come and go? There's no argument there. The putter, he's tried the broomstick. He's searching. He's always been searching, but the talent is there. And I think when you get into fields like this, one of the big questions you have to ask yourself when you start going down the board is, if my guy plays his best, his A game, can he beat Rory? Can he beat Rahm? Can he beat Scheffler? The answer with Aaron Wise is yes. There's no doubt in my mind. Some other guys, they may be a little more consistent. Their ceiling's just simply not good enough to beat these top-end players more often than not. 50 to 1 on Aaron Wise, I'm totally content with that. If the putter syncs with his tee to green game, you could easily see him contend this week. I'm always going to be buying on a guy with this much talent.
That's the thing with Wise. And I was just trying to pull it up real quick. Went from 12, granted, more guys are coming around and we're seeing the fields expand each week, but even still, 12th last week, 8th now total when it comes to driving distance. So you've already got a guy, and you talk about the putter, like the putter has always been the issue, the concern, just trying to get it consistent at the very least for Wise. And that's for a lot of people. I get it, but Wise specifically. So just the fact that we're getting a guy this year already, Ben, that is getting off the tee and is punishing the ball off the tee. This is a perfect course where I think, all right, normally, hey, you're getting off the tee. That's great. You're connecting, you're hitting your 125 and in, your 150 and in strong. Great. But in this course specifically, if you're getting off the tee, just distance wise with Aaron Wise, I think that puts him in a great spot. It's going to make it a little easier to get on the green. And then it's going to take some pressure, ideally, from an easier approach shot off of him from putting, right? So it's all about sequence, getting to the green, less pressure on the flat stick. And at 50 to 1, I mean, I'll take him. I'll absolutely take him. I'll take him top 20 as well. So Aaron Wise, definitely my one of my favorites that you can look at as well here. All right, you have 1 or 2 more here. No, we talked about Morikawa. You have 1 more you want to add?
I mean, when you look, I'll just say this. There are some guys in between the 50 to 100 and 100 to 1 range that I think you could look to. Maybe it is more of a top 10 or a top 20. I told myself that Tommy Fleetwood during swing season was a spot to target. It's really not yielding any dividends. I'm not going to paint a picture that I think he's close. Right. I do think that at 66 to 1, though, him, Jason Day, these guys are all in the same bucket, and I'm okay having little pieces of them, because all it takes is one big show. Like, honestly, I know it's a somewhat joke on the show, but Ricky's really the perfect example of this. If you really believed in Ricky and you were just wheeling him, you got so much of it back in 1 week last week, even without him winning. And I think to a lesser extent, that's what I'm going to do with Tommy Fleetwood. I'm going to keep him on the card all swing season and just see what happens. Nothing crazy, not calling for a win. But at these prices, I'm very content saying he belongs on the card.
66-1 in a field that, and again, we've talked about Fleetwood a lot last year, especially bouncing around different tournaments. Similar, I guess, in a longer range, as we've talked about a guy like Homa, where Fleetwood was just able to compete. The field wasn't a concern, right? I mean, 66-1, and it's got to do a lot, I imagine, Ben, with just how he's playing. But Fleetwood on this field is not 66-1.
He's just, this is a guy, there's so many prerequisites that he checks. Like, he's been in countless majors. He's been in the biggest tournaments in the world. He's got, international experience in, like, Ryder Cups and just all sorts of things where it's not like he's going to be intimidated or nervous or anything like that. His best golf is probably not on the cusp right now. But at the same time, Tommy Fleetwood, I still believe, has some big opportunities in front of him for his career. I don't think it's over by any stretch. I know people are saying this is a guy that probably should have won a major by now, blah, blah, blah. Let's see what he can do. I think this is just another opportunity to keep him on the card, and eventually it could pay big dividends at a really nice price.
All right, let's go long here. We're not going to go 40, 20, 10 because this is just ridiculous. I mean, this is just absurd. An exercise in last week was fun only because one guy actually was 2 spots away from clearing all 3 rungs. But this week it's even more absurd, and we only have like 4 or 5 guys legit. Dan, unless you want to go like Luke Glover or Danny Willett. I mean, the reality is that we're just going to bypass this one. Even my kid, Ben, doesn't want to
Very upset.
Right.
You don't want to talk about Biochem.
He heard me, exactly. Shanmin Jung, like, yeah, he heard these names. It was like, no, that's enough. So let's go long. You and I have each located a triple-digit long shot. Why don't you take it away?
Yeah, and I'll just say real quick on that. Part of the reason I'm reluctant to go down here a lot is because the field strength at the top is way stronger this week. Like last week, there were some decent names. Like now you got Rory Rahm, Scheffler, JT types going against guys that are a little overmatched. You want to shop these odds, no doubt. I'm just going to give a shout out to Davis Riley. Davis Riley is a guy with insane talent. I don't think there's any argument that we don't know how good he is. He misses a lot of cuts. He putts wildly. Sometimes his tee to green is electric. He got on a crazy run in the middle of 2022, 5th, 9th, 13th, 4th, 13th, and then he made the cut at the US Open. We've seen it. Again, do I think Davis Riley is going to win this week? Probably not. But is he a name that we can blindly say, okay, a small unit allocation on talent? That's all I'm buying here. His splits can get crazy hot with the putter. I'm okay with that. When you shop this around, you see big numbers out there for a guy like Davis Riley. He's getting 72 holes, elite scorer, and I think he could show that this week.
So I love the strategy because you're targeting guys, and in this case, a guy, I should say, who has that true boom bust, but there's
Correct.
no bust, right? Like you could be out of it for 3 days, right? And essentially still be around and hanging. So there is always the worst case scenario, but you've taken a lot out as far as like the missed cut. So there's an opportunity for him to have one of those boom days, let's say on a Saturday. And now all of a sudden, especially if you're running him top 40, top 20, you're going to get plus 235, same as my guy. So even if you ran minus 175, top 40 for both of our guys respectively, I think that there's a strong, I like that strategy a lot. It makes a lot of, I don't think a lot of people are doing that in non-cut events.
No, I'd actually argue with a guy like Davis Riley, rev it up more, because if he doesn't have it, I think he could finish in last. So like, give me top 10 and top 20 more so than like a top 40 where it's that's more of a median outcome. Like I want my guy to be consistently 35th. To me, Davis Riley's the type of guy, he's going to knock on the top 10 door a lot, and he's going to be like 65th a lot. So when you're getting 3, 4, 5 to 1, I'd live with that. All you need is a couple of those outliers and you're making a lot of money over the course of time. And I think Davis
Not
Riley
bad.
belongs in that pool of player.
No, it's not bad at all, man. And I definitely like the strategy. And
Where are
I,
you going?
look, I don't. Okay, if this were a normal event, like if I could take John Rahm, if I could just take two of the top three, or if you want to add JT as a name in there, that's fine, right? Like, let's say this event doesn't have Rory, Rahm, and Justin Thomas in it, or it doesn't have Rahm, Scheffler, and Max Homa even in it, right? The odds for Sepp Straka are probably around 70-1. But I found him, and this is why you shop. This is why you shop. But I found Sepp at 100-1. Now, he doesn't get off the tee from the distance standpoint like you'd want. But again, the iron play and the ability to be accurate off the tee is also key here as well. This guy has played a lot of golf, Ben, over the last month. And he's been a playoff in 2 of the last 4 times that he's been out. So if you want to talk about battle tested, if you want to talk about a guy who's been playing consistent golf, the field has dropped his odds down to 100-1. I think if I could get Sepp Straka at 100-1, I have to play that.
I mean, Sepp Straka has shown that he's got ability on tour. My biggest thing with Sepp Straka, and this is why you're finding this price, and I know you wouldn't argue with this, he tends to thrive at shorter tracks. He's more of a short par 70 guy. He did play in the Palmetto at this course. He played terrible. Didn't have it that week. You know that's baked in, and you have to live with that. He still has abilities. He's a guy that really improved his around the green game. I think that's been part of the reason we've seen some success from him. The putter's very strong right now. I think he probably gets swallowed up by the distance in some regards. But again, when you're talking about long shots, all you need is one avenue and you can justify it. And I think Sepp has at least one avenue to bank on.
Honda last year, that's not an easy field, Ben. That's not an easy course, right?
Just shorter, much shorter.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think what I'm looking at here to mitigate the distance is the fact that he has beaten or at least competed against good talent. This is not just waiting for the field to be nobody that anybody knows, and then him just beating up on them. So that's that. You're right. You have to find something that balances out why he's 100-1. And I think the biggest thing is that the field does not intimidate him by any means. And you're going to find him at 70-1, 75-1 at a lot of spots. That's why I think 100-1 makes so much sense just from a value standpoint.
No argument there. Again, that's the balancing act of a non-cut. You
Right.
don't want to just start taking all these guys at the bottom, but you also don't want to say, "Oh, I forget them." That's stupid. You're leaving money on the table if you don't at least consider, can I look to the top 20, top 40 market? Can I roll them into a top 5 with huge odds? At least consider it.
All right, my friend, let's do this. Remind everybody about what's happening with our insider group. It's a really cool opportunity for people to pop in. We have a link below that'll bring you right there where you can sign up and then be part of our insider Discord. Monday, the 17th, it was free for everybody. So hopefully you popped in, you took advantage of that. The Q&A or the NBA going on, as well as the NBA season is upon us. So we have so much content pumping out from college football, soon to be college basketball, through the NFL, now the NBA, NHL, esports, like whatever you want. We pretty much have plays on it. In fact, the beauty of the betting package here, the beauty of that, not just the first week free, which Ben will expand on in just a second, is that let's say you don't see what you want. Like, let's say you really do want some tertiary Turkish soccer league action. You know that you can go to Ben Rasa's channel and say, "Hey, Ben, I saw this team. They're playing in the 3rd Turkish league. You got eyes on them." And Ben's going to give you a play. If you want a 6-leg parlay in the NFL or a 10-point reverse teaser, I got you there.
We cover all the bases.
We do.
No doubt.
And you get your first week free.
Come on in. Like I said, that's really the point I'll make.
Yeah.
It's free for a week. So just come check it out. Esports. Who bets esports? No, I dabble in a little bit of everything.
Yes, we do.
It's a great group. It's a lot of fun. At the end of the day, betting is difficult. We all know that. You're grinding out profits. You're trying to take advantage. That's what we do. But at the end of the day, it's a lot more fun when you're all doing it together. And we've really got a great group in there where the losses they sting less and the wins are that much sweeter because we're all doing it together. So if you want to be part of a community, you want to sweat some games, meet some people, have some fun, come in for the week and hopefully you stick around.
Let's do it. All right, final card before we get out of here. Why don't you start, and I'll just close the door before we bounce for the CJ Cup.
Same formula as honestly what I've been doing all swing season. I'm trying to beat these top end guys who maybe aren't in form, maybe haven't played. I'm gonna try to beat Rory and Rahm with guys like Hovland, who I saw, guys like Morikawa, better odds, uber talented guys like Wise, even though I can't say that with a straight face. And then at the bottom of the card, Davis Riley. I didn't mention him during the show. Benny On is here.
Yeah.
Those type of players that I don't think if you ran this 10 times, you're going to see them at the top of the board more than a couple times, but you would see them at the top of the board here and there. They have that upside. They have that skill set. So you can round out your card with those type of long shots. And I think you would make a really effective CJ Cup card with that type of mentality.
I like it, man. For me, it's going to be Young, just basically where you are with Hovland. I'm there with Young. We're both on with Wise, both on there with Morikawa. I want to target top 20, 40, 20. I'm going to lay a little bit, but you're right there as far as that median with Straka. So I may stay away and just run top 20 with Straka and see if I can wedge in maybe a top 10 and see what else we can find, right? Like, it's not just finish matchups, what have you. These guys are going to be good to target, I think, throughout, especially without a cut. All right, my friend, it's definitely interesting. Yeah, I know. And we're getting there. We're getting closer. We're getting closer. More names are coming back, right?
And that's great. Like I said, you bank some data, if nothing else. There's opportunities there. It's not the end all be all, but I love betting on golf. And anytime there's tournaments, we'll have analysis here at OddsShopper.
Thanks to Chris for producing. Thanks to you all out there. And again, if you haven't already, hit the thumbs up, but don't be a freeloader. All right. Hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, be part of what's happening here. Look around, left, right. We're the fastest growing sports betting community on YouTube. So chances are that 1 of 3 people are not, 2 of 3 are. You don't want to be the 1 of 3, right? You want to look around and be like, okay, I'm good. I'm safe. Hit the thumbs up button. We'll see you next week. Let's cash these tickets on to the CJ Cup.